In this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that men over 40 make in the gym and how to fix them so you can get better and faster results. My name is Rio and I help busy men over 40 achieve their dream bodies with minimal time investment. Mistake number 1. Training too often. It's essential to focus on recovery, especially as you get older. Your ability to recover becomes limited as you enter your 40s. Weight training is all about getting stronger over time. If you lift the same weights, you'll continue to have the same body. But to achieve consistent strength gains, you need to be fresh and recovered for every workout. Achieving progress requires you to push yourself beyond your previous capabilities. You're striving to add a rep or a little bit of weight to the bar every 1 to 2 weeks, and you can't do this if you're always fatigued. We all carry this belief that more is better, and this is true in many facets of life. Work longer hours, get a bigger paycheck. Study more, get better grades. But it doesn't apply to weight training. Carrying this more is better mentality into weight training is a recipe for disaster, and that's for 2 reasons. First, weight training is very strenuous on your body. And second, our ability to recover is limited. This is why when it comes to weight training, more is not better, but less is more. Most men over 40 never get anywhere because they train too often and don't give their bodies enough time to recover and grow from their workouts. If you're over 40, you need more recovery days than training days each week. You will see your best gains training just twice a week. This way, you'll have enough recovery time between workouts to allow your body to recover, grow, and come back stronger each time. If you ever feel like you need to be in the gym more often, just remember that muscle isn't built in the gym. It's built outside of the gym when you're resting. That should tell you where you should be spending most of your time. Successful weight training is not about going to the gym as many days as possible. It's about stringing together many progressive workouts over time. In our case, this means adding a rep or a little bit of weight to our exercises every 1 to 2 weeks. This small, consistent progress is what puts muscle on you over time, and you can only achieve this consistent progress when you focus on recovery. Mistake number 2. Not training hard enough. Most guys over 40 don't train hard enough because they fear getting hurt. But the truth is, injuries in the gym are almost always a result of overuse, not training hard. And overuse is usually caused by doing too many exercises and sets. You will not get hurt by training hard as long as you use proper exercise technique. You might be wondering what training hard even means. And what it means is pushing your sets close to failure. And pushing your sets close to failure means pushing your sets to the point where you can no longer move the weight despite exerting maximal effort. Training close to failure is crucial for stimulating muscle growth. Most guys in the gym leave 5 reps in the tank on every set, and that's just not sufficient for stimulating muscle growth. You need to be taking your sets to 0 to 1 reps in reserve, especially if you're a busy man who cares about being efficient with your gym time. Besides the fear of getting hurt, there's one other reason why most men over 40 don't train hard enough, and it's because they do too much volume, aka exercises and sets, in each workout. When you do a lot of volume, you cannot train as hard, and that's because of the trade-off between volume and intensity. So if you do many exercises and sets within a given workout, you can't train as hard. But if you do fewer exercises and sets, you can train much harder, and that's where you want to be. Hey, real quick, if you're a busy man over 40 struggling to find time for the gym, I created a free minimalist muscle building masterclass for you that will teach you how to gain muscle, lose fat, and reclaim your confidence, all by working out just twice a week. You can pick it up for free by clicking the first link in my description. So the way that I learned about this trade-off was that when I first got into weight training, I followed a lot of mainstream bodybuilding routines that had me in the gym 5 to 6 days a week, doing a ton of exercises and a ton of sets per muscle group. And after about a year, I felt as though my results didn't really reflect how much time and how much effort I was putting into the gym. And so from a return on investment standpoint and from a lifestyle standpoint, it just wasn't making sense anymore. So I started reducing the amount of time I was spending in the gym. I went from 5 to 6 workouts a week down to just 2 to 3. And in those individual workouts, I started doing fewer exercises and fewer sets. And that's when I realized that all of a sudden I was able to tap into this level of focus and this level of intensity and effort that I hadn't been able to actually tap into when I was doing a ton of exercise, a ton of sets, and I was in the gym all the time. And that's when I learned about this trade-off between volume and intensity. And not only did I learn that, but I also learned that training hard is actually what matters, right? I learned that intensity, how hard you can train, is much more important than volume. I realized that how much time I was spending in the gym and how much volume I was doing didn't really matter when it came to improving my physique. After all, I had spent countless hours in the gym every single week and got no results. What counts is how hard you can train. And to train hard, you have to do less. This is why most people who live in the gym look the same month after month. They're spending a lot of time in the gym, they're doing a lot of volume, but they're going through the motions and not training hard enough. Men over 40 would 10x their results if they cut their training volume in half, doubled the rest days between workouts, and focused on training harder in a reduced amount of training time. Mistake number 3. Not progressively overloading your exercises. Most men over 40 do not add weight to their exercises over time. Sometimes this is due to a fear of injury, but other times this is due to a lack of understanding that progressive overload is really the key to building muscle. As I mentioned, training hard is crucial for stimulating muscle growth. This is because training close to failure places a lot of tension on your muscles, and tension is the primary driver of muscle growth. But there's a difference between stimulating muscle growth and keeping muscle growth coming. To keep muscle growth coming, you need to continue increasing tension. The weights that you're using right now in the gym are at some point going to become too easy to produce tension. After all, your body will adapt to it. To increase tension, you need to increase the weight you lift over time. This is the principle of progressive overload, and without it, your body will not change. Like I said earlier, if you lift the same weights, you'll continue to have the same body. Now you understand the importance of progressive overload, but the question becomes, how do you actually progressively overload your exercises safely? The answer is by using a progression system. This is what most men lack in their training. They go to the gym without a plan, they go by feel, they don't track their workouts, they do a different rotation of exercises every single week, and they don't have a progression system in place to help them make progress. If you just go to the gym to feel good about yourself, that will do. But if you go to the gym to get results, then you need a system in place to help you progress. This is where all the magic happens. My favorite progression system is called the double progression method, and this system uses repetition and weight increases. And the way you do this is by working within rep ranges on your sets. For example, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12, and what you do is you focus on progressing with reps until you hit the top end of the rep range, and then when you hit the top end of the rep range, you add 5 pounds in the next workout. For example, let's say you're doing 200 pounds for sets of 6 to 8 reps. In the first workout, you're gonna try and get 6 reps. In the workout after that, you're gonna try and get 7. And then in the workout after that, you're gonna try and get 8 reps. And once you've hit 8 reps, you've hit the top end of the rep range. And it's at this point where you will add 5 pounds, and then in the workout after that, after you've added the 5 pounds, you'll drop to the bottom of the rep range, which would be 6. And then you work your way back up again over time. And you just do this process over and over again. And the reason why this works so well is because after a certain point, beyond the first 6 months of your training, it's very difficult to add 5 pounds to the bar in every single workout. So you're better off focusing on progressing by adding 1 rep at a time, and then once you're ready, adding a little bit of weight. Having a progression system like this in place is truly the difference between success and failure. Mistake number 4. Using improper exercise technique. Using proper exercise technique is crucial at any age, but especially when you're over 40, you have very little room for error here. Getting injured at 40 is very different from getting injured at 18. As you get older, it's going to take you a lot longer to recover from injury, so it's important to prevent injury by using good exercise form. Over my 7 years of training experience, I've sought shortcuts and methods to try and speed up the process of building a great body, and unfortunately, I haven't had very much luck. You can't really get around the fact that it's just going to take time and it's going to take patience, but I have actually found that there's one real shortcut to building a great body, and that shortcut is avoiding injury. If you think about it, the key to gaining muscle is to train consistently for a long time. And what's the number one cause of inconsistency besides unsustainable workout routines? It's injuries. If you can simply avoid getting hurt, you'll be able to train consistently without having to take time off. And that is a real shortcut. I can't cover the right technique for every single exercise in this video, but what I can do is I can give you a few fundamentals of proper exercise form that apply to every single movement so that you can train with good form and ultimately avoid getting hurt. The first thing to understand is that your ego is the enemy when it comes to weight training. Using good form requires you to use less weight, but what you have to understand is that we're in the gym to build muscle, not to just move weight for the sake of it. You want to put your ego aside, use proper form, and don't worry about how much weight you're lifting. Next, make sure to do the full range of motion for every single exercise. This means no half reps. On the bench press, for example, don't stop 4 inches above your chest like most people do. Lower the bar all the way down, touch your chest, and then press it all the way up and lock out the rep. The stretch you get on the eccentric half of the repetition is where you place the most tension on the muscle. And if you remember from earlier, tension is what drives muscle growth. Most guys skip this part of the exercise because it's painful and it requires you to use less weight, but not getting that stretch and not doing the full range of motion leaves a lot of gains on the table. Next, make sure you're in control of the weight. Most guys are not actually in control of the weight they use. They perform their reps too quickly and they bounce and jerk the weight. You don't need to count rep speed like they do in the bodybuilding world, but you need to make sure that you're in control of the weight you use. As a rule of thumb, if you cannot perform a brief pause at the bottom of each exercise, you're probably going too heavy. Finally, use the right weight. For every set, you must use a weight that allows you to squeeze out your target reps in good form. Most guys use way more weight than they can handle, and this leads to cheating, a loss of control, and injuries. Never sacrifice your technique for more weight on the bar. Remember that nobody actually gives a shit how much weight you're lifting. Mistake number 5. Doing the wrong exercises. As a busy man, you want to focus on the most efficient bang for your buck exercises. You want to place 80% of your focus on compound movements. Compound exercises are movements that work many joints and muscle groups. Some good examples include squats, bench presses, deadlifts, overhead presses, weighted chin-ups, rows, and dips. There are 3 reasons why compound exercises are the most effective. They work an enormous amount of muscle in your body, you can load them the heaviest, and they're the easiest to get stronger at. Most guys over 40 make the mistake of focusing on isolation exercises, which are movements that work a single joint and muscle group, like a bicep curl. Oftentimes, people focus on isolation exercises because they're much easier than compound exercises, but they're also less effective and less efficient. To work your entire body with isolation exercises alone would require dozens of different exercises and ultimately a ton of time spent in the gym. Whereas if you focus on compound exercises, you can work the same amount of musculature with just a handful of exercises. Now, this doesn't mean you shouldn't do any isolation exercises, it just means that it's not where most of your focus should go. Always remember that isolation exercises are just the icing on top of the cake. They exist only to help you plug the gaps left by the compound exercises and bring up lagging muscle groups. Now, it's not enough to just do compound exercises. You also need to ensure that you're doing the right compound exercises for your body. You don't want to force yourself to do a movement that doesn't agree with you. You don't need to be dogmatic with which compound exercises you do, but you want to, first of all, make sure that you're actually doing them, and second of all, you want to make sure that you have a compound exercise in your routine for each of the main movement patterns. And the main movement patterns are squat, hip hinge, which is a deadlift of some kind, a vertical push, which is an overhead press of some kind, a vertical pull, which is a weighted chin-up or pull-up, and then a horizontal pull, which is a row of some kind, and then a horizontal push, which is a chest press of some kind. If you have a compound exercise in your routine for each of the main movement patterns, and you focus on mastering them and getting as strong as possible at them over time, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Mistake number 6. Doing too much heavy lifting. Don't get me wrong, you need to lift heavy and push yourself, but you don't want all of your training to be heavy and performed in very low rep ranges. Your joints and tendons get beat up much easier as you get older, and you'd be better off training in slightly higher rep ranges. I've found that with my over 40 clients, doing most of your training in the 8 to 15 rep range works best for gaining muscle without beating up your joints and tendons too much.